The U.S. president is going after drugs, trucks and kitchen cabinets. Donald Trump taking his tough trade policy further with a fresh round of tariffs aimed at pharmaceuticals, amongst other goods, by next Wednesday. The American leader says he's looking after national security and the manufacturing industry. The levies include 100% duties on branded or patented pharmaceutical products. Mr. Trump says the rate will not apply to companies that have started building manufacturing plants in the United States. The president's move could impact Asia's pharmaceutical industry, which exports most of the medicine used in the U.S., and that includes branded and generic medicines. Singapore plays a pivotal role, home to global giants such as Pfizer, Novartis, Merck, Sanofi and GSK. India also playing a big part in this industry, although its focus is on generic rather than branded drugs. New Delhi supplies nearly half of all generics to Washington. Big Pharma has pushed back on Washington's move, warning that tariffs could disrupt supply chains and cause drug shortages. The American leader also unveiled 25% levies on heavy-duty trucks and a 50% tariff on other goods such as home renovation fixtures and furniture. And for more, Nick Harper is covering the story for CNA from Washington, D.C. Nick, let's look at those pharmaceutical tariffs first. So you just heard whether or not you are impacted, whether it's India, Japan, Singapore, it would depend on what kind of medicines you make, whether off-brand, branded or patented.
Well, that's right, Wei Su. And I think although we had those announcements on furniture, heavy trucks and pharmaceuticals, it's really pharmaceuticals that everyone is focusing on because the size and the speed of that announcement has shocked many within the industry. Now, this had been expected, but of course, a simple post on social media has disrupted the global supply chains and the global industry. In terms of Asia, it certainly had a big, sharp shock on Asian stocks in particular. We've seen many of them tumble across the day, including the Topix Pharma Index. That fell about 1.5%. Drug companies overall about 2 to 5% down. Just digging into a couple of them, South Korea in particular has taken a big hit when it comes to its drug-making industry. Samsung Biologics and SK Biopharmaceuticals, they're down about 2 to 4%. Over in Europe, there's obviously a tremendous amount of European pharmaceuticals heading to the US. The impact so far, at least looking at the stock exchanges in Europe, have been somewhat limited, recovering from earlier losses. But drug makers in Denmark and Finland down about 2%. Wall Street, though, opening in just under 90 minutes, likely to be a limited impact on the stocks of pharmaceutical companies here in the United States. In many ways, many on Wall Street will be looking to some inflation data that comes out in the next 30 minutes.
Nick, whatever the impact might be on drug exporters outside of the United States, it could be the pain could be felt most deeply by the U.S. consumer needing to buy medicines.
Well, yes, looking at those two things independently. First, the drug makers outside of the United States, many of them have already been shifting their production here to the US. Over the course of the last year, we've seen multi-billion-dollar investments by huge companies setting up sites here in the US. The ones that haven't suggest it could take them as much as 5 years to be able to fully get set up in the US. And of course, that is a way around these tariffs. JP Morgan put out a note essentially downplaying the risks to pharmaceutical companies around the world, saying that they think it is very manageable, essentially, to get around those tariffs by producing here in the United States. But domestically, the impact is likely to be felt by the US consumers because suddenly there are companies who will be importing these drugs here into the US who are trying to work out how to pay this additional 100% tariff. And at the end of the day, they could just pass those extra costs on to consumers, the very people who need these medicines perhaps to survive. So they could be the biggest loser in all of this. And then domestically as well, the US economy could take a hit. We could see inflationary pressures as a result of this huge increase on pharmaceuticals.
Thanks. Nick Harper there covering this story for CNA from Washington, D.C.